Bless up, family. We're doing a
Hello.
follow up. This show, in spite of the very heavy topics we're getting into, I feel very good about this show. It's healing for me. Thank you, Tiffany, for coming on our show. I'm Omar Gent, co-host of Liberty and Justice for Who, along with Jeanette J. And
Hello.
we're here again with Tiffany Souissi, rhymes
Yes.
with sweet tea. I had to tell
Mhm.
myself to make sure I had to use that to make sure I
Right.
pronounce it right. It is Women's History Month, and we really want to focus on this issue, this topic of women behind bars, not to exclude our brothers, because our brothers are being used and abused by the system. When I say our brothers, I mean males in general. It don't matter where you from or who you are. We're not trying to exclude anyone, forget anyone, overlook anyone's pain.
It seems like corruption just doesn't even discriminate. They don't care what sex you are. They're gonna do you dirty either way,
Right.
man or woman.
Well, corruption, see, is very focused on, it's based on the issues in America. If you think about the history, so it operates on classism. You
Yeah.
don't find the rich getting abused like you find
Right.
women, brown women, or white women who are not a part of the elite. They didn't do Martha Stewart
Right.
the way they did Tiffany Souissi. Oh no, she was in Club Fed
Right.
doing her thing, living it up, you know? So the oppression uses the the narrative, it uses the way things are to abuse people because they know certain people don't have the protection because of their race, because of their class, because of their social and economic status, because it's comfortable for people to discriminate against certain people because you've been programmed through school, you've been programmed through the various TV shows, you've been programmed through a false narrative of what history really is. So thank you, Tiffany, for healing with us, for bringing this story forward, for helping us to move in the proper direction. I appreciate you very much.
And I
Um,
appreciate y'all having me on here
Thank you.
to be
Thank
Absolutely.
able
you.
to tell my story that will maybe help somebody else.
Yeah. And
Yes.
we would like to help you as well, Tiffany, get your justice because you can't just let them get away with what they did to you. And I don't
Yes.
want to see that happen. So I have some resources. If anybody out there would like to help Tiffany, any attorneys, paralegals, organizations, message me on Facebook, Jeanette Jones, or email me on massincarcerationmustemdinc.org. It's there, right there.
Thank you. I would
Thanks.
appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, Tiffany, you shared a lot that is very important for people to hear about what happened. And I know you're still in the process of healing,
Mhm.
and that's very important too. My next question would be, after all that, what's next for you? How do, in not just what's next for you, but did your experience kind of move you to help others even more on your new path of life?
Yes. Yeah, whenever I see somebody in need, I do it whatever I can to help them. In fact, I give them money. I help them out with food, clothing, whatever they need. It's just but I don't like to talk too much about what I do because I don't like to brag about stuff like that. But anytime I see somebody that needs some help, I do try to help them, and I tell people about the Lord. I have in January this year, I actually got my certificate as an ordained minister. While
Congratulations.
also
Yeah.
going to college for my bachelor's of science in healthcare management.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I'm very proud of you. You should be proud of yourself. I do not have the attention span to go back to school, even on a computer.
Yes,
So,
I'm
girl,
taking it online. Thank you.
yeah, you deserve the best.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that and for turning to let
Yeah.
people know that you can turn your 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 pain into
Purpose.
purpose and
Yes.
power. You don't have to just give up. And thank you for reaching back and helping other people, because that ripples. It goes a lot farther than you know. And so often I witness people when they do get to the other side. I think a lot of it is, I don't want to say is selfishness of a lot of people. I think a lot of people just want to forget
Yeah,
what they've
that's
been through. They
understandable.
don't feel like getting those calls. They don't feel like writing letters. It is me reaching back and helping people and dealing with reentry. I can say it is a lot, because you're trying to catch up and get your own self together, but at the
Yes.
same
In
time,
fact, the reason why I'm going to college is because
mhm,
I have a son that's autistic who is living somewhere in, I think, last place I heard was Mobile.
mm,
And I'm trying to get a bigger home. Right now I'm living in a fifth wheel after I got out of an abusive relationship. I was able to buy this and I'm renovating it at the time. At the same time, I'm going to college and doing artwork and all that, but I'm trying to get in
Rebuild.
a better financial situation so I could get a lawyer and get legal guardianship of my son and get him home with me, because I have not seen my son since he was 6 years old.
Wow.
And he was taken because of greed by my stepmother-in-law, and I had nobody to help me fight.
I'm so sorry. I didn't
yeah,
even know
family,
that.
we need to please support, reach out to Tiffany, even if all you can do is just offer some positive words of encouragement. Like she said, hit her up on Facebook. Also, you can Mass Incarceration Inc. must end.org. Sister Jeanette, is a faithful sister. She'll make sure that if you're
I'll point you in
donating,
the right direction to reach her. Um, if you have any, even if you just point her in a direction that you think
mhm,
may help. She is trying to rebuild her life, and you deserve to see your son again and have him with you. And you
Yeah,
deserve
he did
to
call
live
me whenever he
free,
turned 20, and he told me that he knew I wasn't the bad one, that my husband, he was abusing me. And he told me he remembered everything, and he loves me, and he wants to be with me, and I've been trying everything I can to get in that better situation so I can get him back with me. And it's
It's
just,
gonna work out.
I've been
It's
praying so hard, and yeah,
the
but
part
I
about
knew if
faith.
I
You
didn't
have
do
to
something,
trust.
yeah.
It's gonna happen. It'll happen.
yes,
Um, I would like to, if you don't mind, I just wanted to. This second half of your story is really something that needs to be heard. So, do you
Yes,
mind going there again? Can we talk about that?
I don't mind going there.
Okay.
Okay, so
So we left off, I believe, where you had um, moved back to Alabama because your
yes,
mother had to have surgery.
yes, she was gonna have surgeries over a 4-month period, 2 different surgeries,
Mhm.
and anyway, instead of going back and forth to be there for my mother, I wanted to just find a little place to rent temporarily. And I found a place in Jasper, Alabama. And so I had not been there long. And I found out that there was some friends of mine that, they travel, they do carpentry work wherever they can. And so they were in the same town I was at. So, I went to go meet them, to see about doing some cleanup work after they had gotten, finished. But at the time, I did have kidney stones that night. I was on medication for them. And, so I was just going to meet them outside of their hotel room and, talk to them. And so on the way there, I was about to pull into the parking lot, and there was some blue lights come up behind me. So I didn't know why I was getting pulled over. I didn't know what I had done because I used my turn signal. I was driving at the speed limit. I hadn't done anything for them to pull me over. But I pulled over, and the officer told me to go on in the parking lot and we'll talk in there. And so I pulled in, I parked in a parking space, and he told me, he said, let me see your license and your registration, your insurance. So I gave them to him. And he says, how do you pronounce your last name? I said, Souissi. And he said, oh, like the terrorists? I mean, after I had told him that, he asked me what kind of last name that was. And I told him it was French Arabian. He said, oh, like the terrorist? And I was like, what do you mean? And anyway, so he called in my information. And when he come back to my van, he was like, well, I see that you've been to prison recently. I said, what does that matter? And he was like, well, we've just had a store get robbed 5 minutes ago. And he said, you've been to prison already. It won't hurt for you to go back.
Wow.
So I was like, well, I haven't done anything. And he called back up, and there was some more officers come up. There was an investigator come up. And I tried calling my mom. I told her, I said, I don't know what's going on. They're trying to say that I robbed the store. And so they grabbed my phone from me. They start going through my phone. And they at first made me sit in the back seat of a police car. And then the investigator.
One second. Omar, don't you need like a warrant, like something to say that you can go through somebody's phone or search their home or search their vehicle? Like, I don't.
Yeah, it's called probable cause,
right?
And they would need a warrant, especially if you're seizing her property. Will be her cell phone.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of that is illegal. Just everybody notice that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So anyway, the investigator wanted me to get out of the police car, and he made me stand beside my van, and he took pictures of me. I was wearing a maroon patchwork silk coat. I had on a pink sweater, gray jeans, white tennis shoes, thin-soled white tennis shoes. Okay, and so anyway, they were taking pictures of me, taking pictures of my van, and then they told me to sit back in the police car, and they started going through my van. This was December. So they found a pair of black gloves in my van. You know, remember, this is December. You're going to be wearing gloves. Okay, so
Gloves not
they
illegal.
told me,
It's not a crime to wear gloves, to have gloves.
no, it's not a,
But
it's
go
not a
ahead.
crime. Okay, they told me, they said, you must have used these in the robbery. I said, I didn't rob anywhere. And so they said, where are you staying at? You staying in this hotel? I said, no, I was actually here to meet some friends. And I told them what room they were in. And they went up and they said, well, you don't have any friends here. But I know they were there. And so anyway, they come back and they told me that I had to show them where I was staying at that time. So they made me bring them to the little trailer that I was renting. And they made me unlock the door. They went in and they started searching the place.
And stop you right there. This is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, fruit of the poisonous tree, meaning anything they took went inside and gathered is a violation of her Fourth Amendment rights because they didn't have a warrant. So anything they took out of the home or claim that came from the home is illegal, a violation of her due process rights and her freedom from a reasonable search and seizure. Period. They did not have authority to do that, to go in that home. Go ahead.
Okay, so they went in and they were searching. They kept going in different rooms and everything. You know, I couldn't even stand up straight because I was hurting so bad from the kidney stones. You know, and I had to go into my bedroom because I needed my medicine. You know, and I took one of my pills, drank something with it, and he was looking in my closet, and he pulled out a black hoodie, and then he pulled out a black shirt, and the black hoodie had a white patch on it right here. It was on the right. You know, you could see it clear as day. There's a bigger white patch. And you know, it was not one that I put on it. It was one that was made on it from the factory. And he said, you use this to rob the store. I said, sir, I didn't rob the store. I don't even know what store you're talking about. I didn't know anything about that place. I had just come there. I didn't know what all kind of stores they had there. I didn't, you know, I was just more interested in being there, you know, just to be there for my mother. I'd found out where the Walmart was. I'd found out where the Dollar Tree was, you know, the different stores that I shop at personally. You know, but other than that, I didn't know too many other places. Because when you're new, you're not going to know everything about the place.
Right.
So anyway,
Did they take you to the station after
no,
that?
they took me back to my van and they told me I was free to go.
Interesting.
And they wanted me to come to the police department to be interrogated, like within a couple days. So I talked to my mother. I told her what had happened and all, after they had snatched my phone away from me and hung up on her. So anyway, she told me, she says, you go and you park your car in a, like the library parking lot or somewhere like that, because she asked me what was near the police department. And, you know, which I had put it in my GPS, and I went and found the place, and I was looking around what all was near the police department. And there was a library there, and she said, well, you park in the library parking lot. And so I went, and I was still hurting and all, but you know, when I got in the interrogation room, he said, he slammed the papers down. He said, sign these. I said, I'm not signing anything. And he says, you need to sign those papers. I said, I'm not signing anything. And in fact, until I have a lawyer, I'm not saying anything. Because I've been done like that before. And they will trick you. They will trick you and turn your words around to make you look guilty, even though you're not. But he told me, he said, well, you're free to go now. And so I went back around Christmas time. I did go visit my family. I spent Christmas with my family. When I come back, I actually forgot to put some antifreeze in my van, and my van ended up freezing and my motor messed up. So yeah, I was up there without a vehicle then. So then the cops started knocking on my door. I didn't want to answer it because, you know, I'm a woman by myself in the house. And so, you know, then one day when I was outside trying to work on my van, you know, to see about if I could replace the motor or what, you know, by myself, you know, I was going to try something, anything, you know, to try to get my van fixed. Another officer come up, and he told me I was under arrest for first-degree robbery. But also another thing that they found in my bedroom was a handheld BB gun. Still had the orange tip on it, and they tried to say that I used that in the robbery. But
oh my gosh,
yeah,
it's like a
joke. I want to say this right here. It's very important that people realize that some people may say, you know, this seems a little unbelievable. Why would they come down so hard like that? You have to realize that it may be different when it comes to where you live, but crime reports are issued. Some call it a grid analysis, and a grid analysis, it calculates how many robberies or how many, you know, raids or whatever it is within the area. So their pressure is pressure being put upon detectives, sometimes even patrol, you know, beat officers, to find out who committed what crime. And often it's by any means necessary. And She's talking about how they went in there with no warrant. They got a shirt, which is not a crime. They got some gloves. They went in her vehicle, which should have been impounded with the warrant. They went in her house. They got all these different materials to create a profile.
Exactly. Thank you.
And what's is very important to know that, see, pressure is being put on different chains of the police department to secure convictions, sometimes by the prosecutors or even by the judicial powers that be, by any means necessary. It don't have to be lawful or even just. And I would add, before I conclude, when she spoke about at the beginning of the interview, when she was adding on to what I was saying, and I was saying that oppression uses the different, what I call brackets of societal issue. And one of the first things he said to her before he started this whole process, "Oh, you've been in prison already." So with her having the label of a prisoner, with her having a felony, with her, in his mind, this is a person from a certain socioeconomic class, most definitely, because they've been to prison already. So therefore, we can start the machine. We won't have no issue. Can you imagine them rolling up on, let's use Martha Stewart again, and a robbery goes down and they pull Martha Stewart over for whatever reason? She drunk, she falling out the, she's falling, and a robbery goes down. They tell Martha Stewart, "You've been in prison before. We're going to go in your car. I don't care if she had 3 guns in there, handguns in there. We're going to use your gun. We're going to go to your condo. We're going to use, come on. So we got to be aware of these issues and see that if it can happen to her, because as she was speaking about so much of that, I was thinking about my case as well. They did the same thing. They went into my home, my then residence in Colorado, without a warrant. They pulled out a black gloves. They pulled out a hoodie. I mean, somebody is ringing a bell to me, and they said this is what the robber wore. Yeah. But they went into home without a warrant. So even if I did commit the crime and they went into the home and they found a damn cash register from the place, it's still illegal because of the means of how they gathered it, in violation of the law. So I just wanted to bring that out.
It's all unlawful, but they'll do, like you said, by any means necessary. They will do what they have to do to build a case, make it all look like it makes sense, even though it's bullshit.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
And so anyway, I was taken to the Walker County Jail. I told them that I have to be on medication. I told them what medications I was on. And they told me that, well, until we get in contact with your doctor, we can't give you anything. Okay, I had an inhaler in my purse. They wouldn't even give me my inhaler. So I was put in the dorm, and I was so upset, I started having an asthma attack. So the girls were bringing me to the shower to breathe steam. And then some of the girls and some of the officers were making bets on how long it would take me to die from the asthma attack. I was saying, I need some help. I need to go to the hospital. They said, we're not bringing you to the hospital. We're not getting any paramedics here or nothing. They wouldn't give me any help at all.
That sounds like Alabama.
Yeah. And so anyway, it was the next morning. I mean, this is all night going through, struggling to breathe. The officer brought in somebody else's, Officer King. She was the only one that was nice to me and would help me out. That was like a female officer that was there at that time. And she brought me somebody else's inhaler, and she let me get a few puffs of it, and it stopped my asthma attack. And anyway, so while I was there, I was telling the women about Jesus. They were running around the dorm nude. They were passing notes back and forth through the wall, which the sex offenders from the male population, they were in their own dorm, and they had taken some kind of metal things, and they were like drilling holes, making holes through the concrete to pass notes and to be able to look into the women's dorm. And these women were running around nude in there. They were having sex with each other on top of the tables so the sex offenders could watch them. And, just all kind of things. There was even one girl that got a guy's name every time she would get a tattoo, from the jailhouse tattoos on her body. He would give her like minutes to use the phone. And she had his name tattooed all over her. And but after a little while of me telling the girls about Jesus and all, they started complaining, and they took me to another jail, Winston County Jail, and they put me in that jail because I was a troublemaker. They said I was a troublemaker just because I was telling the girls about Jesus and tell them that what they were doing wasn't pleasing in the eyes of God. And so while I was there, the doctor there got in contact with my doctor, and they got me on my medicine, thank God. So I was getting my medicine there, and I was there for a little while until this one girl come in, and she was starting to try to bully me because I was actually, there was one girl that kept getting bullied, and I was actually taking up for her. And so I was sitting on my bunk, reading my Bible, and this one girl come over to me, picked my Bible up, and hit me across the face with my Bible. So me, I didn't even think about it. I just stood up, looked her in the eyes, pow, 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 right to the side of her face. Out like a light.
I don't
So
condone violence, but you get what you get.
It's called self-defense.
Exactly.
Yeah. And plus she had used the Bible to hit me.
Yeah.
But anyway, the officers come in. They took me to to a cell, and they placed me in that cell, and then they started trying to feed me what they called prison loaf. It is.
Oh, you know what that is?
Do
you know what it is?
They take.
Oh man, unfortunately.
They take all the food from the tray that you have that day, and they blend it up in a blender, and they try to make you eat it. Which they had also been saying that I was Muslim and stuff because of my last name, and trying to give me a Quran instead of a Bible. And I kept telling them I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And so anyway, before I went to that jail, I was actually brought to another jail. But they didn't want to keep me there because, well, the Walker County Jail had a certain problem. They would not check the women's hair whenever they come in, and women were bringing head lice in. and I caught head lice from one of these women. And the other jail, they tried to give me 3 different lice treatments, and I still had lice in my hair. In fact, I caught lice at that Walker County jail 3 different times, and they tried to say that I was the one that brought it in, although I didn't have anything whenever I come in. But when I got back, they brought me back to the Walker County jail. I was there for a little while. I was taking care of this woman. Her name was Carolyn Cox. She was an older lady that was in the jail, and she started having problems. She started showing classic signs of having colon cancer. She was using the bathroom on herself. Her stomach was hurting her. She was high fever. She couldn't hardly keep anything down. I was asking them to give her like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, which was the only thing that she would eat at that time, because she didn't want anything else. She couldn't keep anything else down. And I was changing her bed covers. I was helping clean her up. In fact, I was begging them to take her to get her tested for colon cancer, and they said we can't take her to the hospital. They would not take her to the hospital. So this went on for a while, and finally, whenever it come time for her to go to court, she was released to a nursing home. And 2 weeks after she was at the nursing home, she died of colon cancer. So I had been trying to get her some help, and they wouldn't help this lady, and she ended up dying because she was in jail. She lost her life because she was in jail.
You were the one person that cared enough to care for her and try to fight for her. It's not excusable, but thank God that she did have you. Just take solace in that, because that's horrific. That's Yes Care for you guys, because Yes Care provides health care for Alabama prisons, and they hire the bottom of the barrel physicians that have been reported. They don't even have their license. They didn't pass their boards. You can look it all up. Yes Care.
Yeah, they had to keep giving me my medicine because I had gotten it from the Winston County jail, and that was the only good thing that come from that place. But so I was going on telling women about Jesus, and actually one that had never been allowed to even have anything about Jesus in her home because her father didn't believe in God. Some of these women actually come to Jesus because of me telling them about him. But it was I was there maybe about a couple more months, and there was this one girl come in. Her name was Dana Siebert. She was there also for robbery first. And after a while of me being there, another, and her, it's like the women from upstairs, they were really the worst ones. They were the ones that were picking fights with the other girls. They were running around nude, trying to get women to go upstairs with them to have sex. And it's like the problem got so bad that the officers had to bring in outside workers to put steel plates on the wall to try to keep the sex offenders from drilling through the walls. So at one point while we were in there, we had to go into the visitation room because it was raining and we couldn't sit out in the yard, which was surrounded by concrete and then covered up with fencing. So we had to go into the visitation room, and the officer that was on the monitors and all, he was talking about, well, I sure do like seeing y'all running around with y'all's titties bouncing and stuff like that. And he said, well, I'm going to nod at each one of y'all. And when I nod at y'all flash me your tits. And so anyway, he started nodding at each girl and they would flash him. And when he got to me, he nodded at me and I shook my head no. And then he nodded at me again. I said, I'm not going to do that. And so it was about maybe 3 or 4 of us that refused to flash him. And in fact, they only gave us one uniform to wear at that Walker County jail. And whenever it come time to do laundry, if you didn't have thermals or to put on, you had to wrap up in your blanket. And sometimes even whenever it was like time to wash the blankets, you had to run around nude. But thankfully I had thermals that I bought from money I had in my purse. And so
there at one point you discovered that an individual was there that was actually responsible for the robbery.
Yes.
Right.
Another girl came in and she says she found out that I was supposed to have robbed a store, which I had found out by that time that it was supposed to have been like a Mexican store. Mm-hmm. And so she told me that Dana Siebert and her son go around. He steals vehicles. And they will use these vehicles to go rob stores. She will go in and rob the stores while he's waiting out in the vehicle. And so anyway, she told me that she's the one, I know her. And she talked about robbing that store. And she said somebody else got arrested for it.
Were you allowed to see the camera footage from that robbery?
Yes, I was.
You were. And
finally, whenever I was able to see the camera footage, mm-hmm. they were saying that the robber was 5 feet tall. I'm 4'9". I've always been ashamed of my size, but the robber was 5 feet tall. That was 3 inches taller than me. There's no way I could have made myself be 5 foot tall unless I was wearing heels or pumps or something.
Right.
Not no thin-soled tennis shoes. The robber was dressed head to toe in black.
No white patches.
No white patch on it looked like a coat that they were wearing.
And you attempted to notify an officer, Officer Cooper, correct?
No, actually, I had tried to write the sheriff. Mm-hmm. He would never answer any of my notes I would put in the kiosk. He, it's like nothing you said was important to them. But whenever I was finally brought to court for my initial court, they this is like before I went to court, I didn't know that she was the one that robbed the place, but I was given lawyers. Okay, so I was trying to at first write the sheriff about it. Okay, and then I tried writing my lawyer. I wrote him a letter. I handed it to an officer. Her name was Officer Cooper. And she took it out into the corridor. And she opened my letter and read it. And then instead of bringing it to mail it, she come back in the dorm, went upstairs, and gave my letter to Dana Siebert, the one that I was writing my lawyer about.
The actual robber.
Yes. So the next morning they told me they were putting me in protective custody because she had found out that I was trying to tell my lawyer about her and she was going to kill me if she got the chance. So she had told them that she was going to kill me. And so anyway, they put me in a locking cell in the dorm. And they would only give me like 1 16-ounce cup of water, supposed to last me for 24 hours. They only allowed me to have 5 showers within the 30 days that I was in that cell. And they told me if I wanted to get clean, I had to bathe in the toilet, which the sink didn't work. And they told me I had to bathe in the toilet. And so one day they were supposed to be bringing me my medicine to the door and unlocking the door and giving me my medicine. So one day they popped the door. This Officer Klingon.
Klingon?
Yes, that's her name. Officer
like
Klingon.
Yes. Did she look like a Klingon?
She was kind of a heavier set woman.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
But anyway, she told me, she called me from the door and told me that I had to come get my medicine. I said, I'm not supposed to leave this cell. I'm under protective custody. And she said, well, you're going to have to come get your medicine because I'm not going to bring it over there. Okay, so I walked across the dorm. She gave me my medicine, and as soon as I handed my inhaler and all my Advair back to her, she shut the door, and I turned around to go back to my cell, but I was grabbed by the back of my hair. My feet were swept out from under me. I landed knees first on concrete. And then she climbed on my back and started hitting me in my temple area, hitting the back of my head, pounding my head into the concrete, kicking me. I was being kicked.
So this is the second female officer that basically set you up to get your ass beat. That's great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And so anyway, her and another officer come in the dorm, and they got Dana off of me. They put me back in the cell. Now, of course, they didn't do anything to Dana. And it was like a few minutes later, Officer Klingon come back in to the dorm, and she got Dana and her friends to reenact the assault. And she was laughing about it. And, so the other girls, they would do things like, whenever I was actually sleeping on a bunk in the main area,
Mhm.
they would jump on top of the other bunk and just be jumping up and down on it, bringing rust down on my face and stuff. And one girl kept jumping on my back. I mean, a bigger girl. And I'm here 4'9", and my right foot's been broke all the way across. So
It was just
until
constant bullying and
they would
beating you
jump on
up. And
my back and start hunching me and stuff. And when I tried to complain about it, Officer Cooper and the other officers would say, "Oh, you liked it." No, I did not like that. In fact, I have back problems, worse back problems than I did have because of that.
I'm sure. You had
And
mentioned, Tiffany, you had mentioned that there was a female correctional officer that was married to an investigator.
yes, they had actually took me out of that cell in the dorm, and they put me up front in some other cells and all. And so she had come, Officer Tidwell had come in there, and she was like making fun of me and stuff, and saying all this and that about the other girls and all. And I said, well, you think so highly about the other girls and all, but they were in the dorm talking about going off with your husband in his king cab truck and having sex with him. I
Oh,
didn't
my.
know her husband, but they said that he was an investigator and they would have sex with him in his truck. And so anyway, she got mad about it, went and got her husband, and he come in and started making threats at me, telling me that, I could kill you in here and nothing be done about it. And
Thank you
so
for
while
saying that. Because we're getting close. If y'all are still watching, we're getting close to going on the hour mark. But it's very important for her to expound on so many things. I want you to know that me being on the inside, I see that the officers and Miss Souissi as well, that when they have a certain inmate in mind for retaliation, that what they do is use other inmates. And so often people who are abused, traumatized, don't know themselves, various issues, not spiritually connected to the creator. They play the game of let us join the side of the abusers to get more power within the prison structure, more perks to get um, a better position, basically.
Mhm.
And it
yeah,
happens all the time. And this is why what we were saying in the beginning, that civilian review boards are very, very important to because who's watching the watchers?
Exactly.
And a
right,
lot of
I think
times officers will use inmates because they know if anything comes down, the inmate will catch all the punishment.
right.
So these people are being used as pawns, whether they realize it or not. And when an investigation does come down, if it comes down or charges are brought, they're brought against many times inmates. So it has to be a continued effort for us to reach out to the people who are incarcerated and to make sure that when they're experiencing retaliation, because these are ongoing things, and we can many people can write and tell you about these different experiences, and and detail them for you, and it's very important that these stories get out. But what do we do once we hear about this type of treatment? What do we do? We have to stand up and work together with the people on the inside to make sure the type of retaliation, to make sure the type of abuse is
not tolerated.
the bud, like you say.
I can't tell you how many times I have written the ombudsman, the governor, John Hamm, Steve Marshall, Yes Care. I'll tag everybody in that damn email when I hear about medical neglect or somebody's being abused, right away on the computer. And I don't give a damn. I say straight up, this is going here. I'm sending it to the DOJ. Action needs to be taken. You can't be afraid. We have to help the people on the inside, because we are the only people that can even try to help them. It's, and it's sometimes it ends up being, deadly for people. And so if you hear about this kind of thing, send emails. I have a link tree, actually, if you follow me on Facebook, on my page, Mass Incarceration Must End, Inc., I think is at the end. I have a link tree, and I provide several links to contacts, resources to contact in case these types of things happen: medical neglect, abuse. You can file an investigation as well. And just don't be afraid.
And don't just send one email, one phone call. Organize as many people as possible.
Exactly.
Especially if inmates are willing to work with you on the inside to bring justice to a situation. Combine the inside push with the outside push. Keep calling and calling. Go around the bad attitude. Go around the failure to respond. You stay on them constantly. Make sure you take documentation.
Do a call to action.
Make sure you take documentation. You keep noting who you're talking to. If it's not on paper, it doesn't exist. And that's basically all I have to say, because everything has to be brought up in a way that people really have to be made aware of what's going on.
Exactly. And emails really are the best way, because you have that paper trail, like you said. Calls, you just do a call to action. Ask as many people as you can that are advocates, activists, to make the phone call. Leave the number on, and just blow that bitch up, that phone up. I'm sorry, but just keep calling and calling and calling. Call the warden. You'll never speak with him. Tell his secretary. You have to be relentless. And you have to, they have to be aware that people on the outside know what's going on. And if anything happens, we're going to hold somebody accountable.
I just want to ask, thank you for that, Comrade Jeanette, making that clear to the people.
No
and in closing, do you have any words to the people, anything you want to leave with the people, Miss Souissi?
Well, there's so much that goes on in the jails, even, that you never hear about. So many people dying in these jails. Officers kill people in the jails. There was one boy who is kin to an older woman that worked in the jail. She would actually come to work drunk, because she was working in the same area where her grandson had been in a cell, and two of the officers beat him up and hung him, and he died as a result.
I can't even, like, this just, there, I have no words. People are absolutely disgusting. You went to trial eventually. You had another public pretender, and you took
Yeah.
unfortunately you had to take a plea deal for something that you didn't do, and it was
Yeah,
what was
I
it?
was also assaulted a second time as well.
Wow. Um, what was the plea deal? Was it 20 split 5 or
Yes.
20 split 5? And can you just clarify what that means? Because I know I didn't know what it meant.
Okay. 5 years incarcerated, 15 years on paper.
Like that means on parole, right?
Probation.
Probation. Okay.
Yeah. It can either be parole or probation. Mine is probation, which I have gotten off of supervised probation.
Well, that's good.
Just
I'm
yes,
glad
just
to
this
hear
month.
that for you. I'm glad to hear that for you. Well, we do have to wrap up. It's been an intense journey, hearing everything that you have gone through, but you did survive, and you're here to tell a story. God has given you a purpose. I believe that, and I think that you will go on to lead a happy life, and I hope that you are not in Alabama anymore. And if you are, get the hell out of there. And yeah, we really appreciate you, Tiffany. Thank you so much for sharing this story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're signing off. Have a great afternoon, and we will catch you next week with my homegirl Chloe. She is the advocate for my dear friend William Sweet, that is on death row. So stay tuned. Bye, guys.
Bye.